Oh boy, everyone, it is Hotline League episode 26. You're clicking the YouTube video, you're listening to the podcast, you're hearing it. My roommate's laughing really loudly outside while I'm trying to start the show going. There's so much to talk about tonight because I am leaving Wednesday. We're just hours out from my departure to MSI in Berlin. Oh my god, the groups are starting. Team Liquid's going to be there. Is Double F going to be able to pull something off? I don't know. He's going to be what we talk about for 30 minutes of this episode because, you know, we're all biased like that. There's so much to talk about. We're getting into it. Hotline League episode 26 starts now.
Hotline League is brought to you by Omen by HP.
And here we are. It is time. I'm joined by my co-host, my guest, everyone, tonight to talk about so much exciting stuff on this week's episode. Next to me, I think maybe you guys will see it on the left, so the right. So in this direction is Mark, my constant co-host. He is sold out. He is wearing an Offline TV shirt from his former employer. He's wearing an Echo Fox hat from his future employer. We're going to be talking about that in just a minute. Mark has a very exciting announcement.
A Delta Fox analyst. Mark Zimmerman.
Oh, yeah, that's right. We've also got Kelby May below me, who is returning. It's been a bit, Kelby. When were you last on?
I haven't been on for 2 episodes. 2 weeks.
That
3
felt
episodes,
like a
2
long
weeks.
time.
Yeah.
Felt real long. I missed you.
Yeah.
I
Well,
miss you guys.
Travis, when's your merch coming out so I can wear that? You got merch on the way?
Subscribe.
I got this hoodie made. I'm actually curious if people want to purchase it. Because if they do want to purchase it, maybe I will make more of them. Mark, what's been going on with you for this past week?
I got sick.
You just
that's
the greatest thing about doing the show with you for the past month is like every episode you have some great news to share with us. Hey guys, not working at Offline anymore. Yeah, I won't be going to MSI. This past week I've just kind of sat around. Now I'm sick. You know, it's just
I'm gonna develop a heroin addiction. That's my goal for next week. Just gonna keep going down this dark path and see where it leads.
yeah.
Ambitious.
Well,
I mean, I got a lot of free time, so.
yeah, that's good. Kelby, what's going on with you? Please give me more than what Mark just gave me.
Damn. I've been chilling. Brittany's birthday was this weekend, so we hung out and we did birthday stuff. And then yeah, that was.
There's
that was
an
about
interesting.
it.
So if you go to the YouTube videos for this, you can actually track like the drop off of when people are watching, and usually the show starts and then there's a
Brittany's
pretty
yelling at
big
me.
dip,
I didn't know she was watching.
and then Brittany was watching.
Yeah.
There's a pretty big dip, and then it starts to come back after the intro, and so I'm starting to realize people don't really care about our personal lives, and I can't really
why would
blame
they?
them. They're not particularly interesting.
No, I mean, did you just hear what I was sick? That was all I did. I met up with some high school friends for the first time in 3 years. Like,
That's
they
cool.
Don't care about any of that. No one cares about that.
Have you been watching the show
No.
MSI?
Oh, a little bit on and off.
Okay. Have you been watching anime?
I watched everyone freak out at the casters for missing a goddamn Korean solo queue Ezreal build.
Yeah, the
Fire them all. Bring me out there.
the subreddit is very aggressive right now, and I don't know why. I mean, we had our own situation this past week. We won't go into it because I like to sweep stuff under the rug. But
You're talking about Parth?
what?
Yeah. Talking about Parth NATO.
Dude,
Parthican.
Listen,
Can
I'm
I-
trying to raise funds, Kelby. I don't.
Okay, sure.
No more extra drama on this week's show. But but I do feel like the subreddit's just out for blood, and I don't really know why. Maybe they're bored or there's not enough content in a world where there's less interviews and highlights and big plays and team announcements. Maybe people just fill the subreddit with anger and rage.
I believe it. I also think I feel like a lot of them are just like butt mad about the game in general right now. You know, like how many complaint posts you see like top lane sucks, no one can carry anymore. I miss assassins. The jungle changes are dumb. Every jungle change you ever make is dumb. Never touch the jungle again in your life, Riot. Oh, and by the way, I hate casters. It just kind of gets thrown in there.
Okay, yeah.
While
It's
they're,
just like the kitchen
spewing all
sink,
that.
like
Yeah.
the caster said something, throw him in. Travis and Hotline League throw that in.
Yeah, exactly.
The spectators, didn't the spectators get blown up? Like, the Koreans are so
the
much.
LPL or no, the
LCK
casters,
LCK spectators are so much
Korean,
better,
and everything they do is better, including their observers.
Yeah, there's
They
just
do have some. I mean, like the thing is, like I see where a lot of the time they're coming from. So, like to an extent, I agree. It just feels like it always gets like super blown.
This
out
is
of
my
proportion.
thing. This is my thing. Like, I don't. Without going into the drama from this past week, people were really upset with. I did a whole video if you guys want to check it out about like how Parth called in and how we handled that last week. And nobody ever goes into the comments and says like, "Hey Travis, like love the show. Think that section could have been moderated a little bit better." Or oh wow, it was like interesting to see Parth kind of behave that way. Like I've seen him in TSM Legends, and so maybe he's a little different. It's like, whoa, Parth, I've lost all respect for him. I've been a TSM fan for years. And I've watched that 10 minutes, and now I hate him. Or like, Travis, I've seen that. I saw how you behaved in that answer. And now, after watching every Hotline League episode, I will never watch a Hotline League again. Never again. And I will comment and dislike and yell at you on every single video you ever do. I have never voted in a presidential election in my life. I don't care when my mom calls me, but I will be heard on this issue. And
I mean, so I know you're satirizing them, but it's actually pretty reasonable. I think I'm done with this show too, actually.
Okay, good. Yeah, we're all done. We're all done. Yeah. Whenever an event happens, there's never like I've lost 25% of my respect for this person. I've lost like 3 respect points for them. You always lose all respect. It's such a binary thing, the loss of respect.
Well, if you want to get upvoted, you have to be dramatic.
Yeah.
And like I think there was good discussion in the Reddit thread about us. Like I read that. Like there's some points I agree with, some I didn't. And that's how it is with most of those threads. It's like I see where you're coming from. A lot of it makes sense, but you're just like speaking with so much hyperbole that like it's hard to get through.
I've lost all respect for the NA spectators. I've lost all respect needs to become a meme. I've lost all respect for Ezreal's blue build. I don't know. All right. Anyway, I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I am moving, so we'll probably have one MSI one Hotline League after MSI where you guys will see this place, and then I'll be moving. I should probably hype it up for a hype vid or something like that. But it sounds like, assuming everything goes well, I'm going to have a dedicated bedroom just for creating content. So I'll turn that into a studio. The Travis Gafford studio will be more real than it is right now. So. Pretty excited for that.
Did you win that bid on that place in the Malibu Hills then?
Yeah. We mean the place where they filmed Iron Man? Tony Stark's place?
Oh, I thought that was your second choice.
Oh, no, the first one fell through.
Okay.
And so we're going to
go
to
to that one. Yeah. It's a little bit more modest than I think what you were seeking, but
there's a lot of clean lines. Nice, there's a lot of clean lines with it, which is what I like.
How are we back on the personal lives? I thought we transitioned off this. How are we back here?
I was making a joke.
Everything about the show is just about my personal life. I mostly do it just to, try to find a...
Double if's not playing. Time to talk about myself.
Well, I'm headed off to MSI this week. We've got games starting on Friday. Lots of stuff to talk about. Plans have been happening. Mark, how much of the plans... I will admit I have not really watched the plans because I care more about who's getting... or who gets out than how it happens. But Mark, if you want to give an update or thoughts on any of that stuff, that'd be great.
So I've actually mostly been watching for like meta and like that kind of stuff. And so like I haven't really been keeping track of results because I'm watching it like the next day during the rebroadcast. Yeah. And then I'm just like idly watching it on another monitor. So I really don't have too many specific thoughts. Like Gambit said that they would be a top 4 team in the EU LCS. That was funny. Supermassive looks pretty good. Japan still sucks, and no one should ever get their hopes up for them for the next 2 years. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'll be willing to talk more specifically if callers, bring it up. I'm also down to talk about that caster point. I know we don't want to touch too much on drama, but
What does the meta
Nero
look
had
like?
an
Like,
interesting-
are you predicting we see a very exciting like MSI Group Stage and elimination stage, or is it going to be dull? What do you think so far from what you like the gameplay that you've seen?
I mean, minus like the likelihood that Korea is going to win it all and like how dull you find that. I think it'll be fun. I think more than likely, like the playing team who makes it, they'll be pretty crazy. And North America people will care about that. Europe people will care about that. I'm really excited to watch the Chinese team play. So I think all the regions should have fun with the event. As long as like I hope people weren't watching play-ins because I feel like that will just like burn you out if you're watching like 2 weeks of play-ins before finally watching the team you actually care about play.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we've talked about this before, I think, on League Weekly, where I worry that, and I kind of feel the same way I did last year in MSI when they did this, that I worry that they are somewhat, I don't know, like
It's like
that's the brand
play-ins
for.
is as long as the main event almost.
Oh, the plans aren't as long. Also, you're.
No, they almost are. I said like it takes forever to get through the play-ins. It feels like.
Yeah, it just kind of feels
Yeah.
like it weakens like the brand of MSI when it's like, all right, wake me up whenever the real MSI starts, because it doesn't feel like it has, you know. At least that's how I feel. I don't know. I mean, Kelby, I assume that you're not watching until Peter gets on stage.
Well, I've been going to the subreddit because I've been like I haven't been super closely following the schedule of things, so I go to the subreddit and I'm like, oh, are there games? And then I look at the list of the results, the post game matches, and I'm like, I know none of these teams.
Yeah.
I don't care when are the real games starting.
Well, the problem is
I'm a more casual League fan, obviously. But
Yeah.
I mean, the other problem is like a lot of the teams that you would like think you would know previously from other international wildcard plans, like half them have new fucking names. Like Pentagram is the same as Rampage was last year, but they're just called Pentagram now. Rainbow 7 is the same team as Lion Gaming. It's like all the same players, but they just have a new name. So like to a casual fan who's like tuning in, like if they don't specifically remember the players, they're not going to remember like some of these teams, even though they've seen them before.
I mean, I personally only care about top teams in the 4 biggest regions. So
Yeah. Well, we'll be getting to that finally this week, which is great news. And then I guess the other thing that got announced that's interesting is we now know where Summer Finals is going to be, which is great, by the way, because historically Riot's been much slower on announcing this stuff. So congratulations to them. Credit where it's due.
are you going to do a whole video congratulating them, Travis?
Yeah, congratulations, you did it. And so I guess we can talk a little bit about that. It's going to be in Oakland at the same place where the Warriors play, Oracle Arena. So that's kind of neat.
Are you concerned about collusion at all, Travis?
No.
I am terrified.
Are you? Was there any
like,
conversation about that on Reddit? I'm just kind of curious.
I think there were some jokes cracked about like home court advantage.
Oh, yeah. I mean, in a world where you tell your franchise sports teams like we're never going to use your venue if you join our league, I think that's a tough sales pitch. So
yeah, and it's the right time to go.
Yeah,
because like the likelihood Golden Guardians make the finals, this is a good time for it.
Oh, one other thing that happened is folks that can that want to. This just happened. I just found out about it earlier today. Folks that want to go to the riotgames.com/career section of the site, there's now actually a job posting up for a head of business, I believe. Let me see if I can find the exact titles, but in esports specifically. So I think a lot of people have been a little. Oh yeah, it's a business development lead for North American esports. And so I think a lot of people have been disappointed previously with sort of the lack of sponsorships and the way that perhaps Riot's worked with partners. It's been a year and a half since the BAMTech deal got announced. So I'm excited to sort of see what happens there. I don't know if anybody wants to call in and have a conversation about that, but it's good to see that in a world where I kind of feel like Overwatch is.
And
what
is that the posting that calls for 10 years of sales experience? Or is that the other position?
I don't see. Oh yeah, you have at least a bachelor's degree and 10 plus years of experience in business development or sales, specifically targeting sports and/or sponsorship brand deal experience.
I'm sure a lot of those people watch Hotline League.
Yeah,
I did 3 months in Cutco. I sold knives for 3 months in the summer, and I got an award for it. Do you think I should apply?
My content has possibly, even with no MSI happening or sponsor happening, my content might have gotten as many sponsors as Riot's NALCS has this past year. So
Jesus, Travis.
You have 2 sponsors?
Well, I have Omen for this show, or we have Omen for this show. Wonderful sponsor. Shout out to Omen.
Oh, that's right.
I have Omni Slash. I did a thing with Rivalry. We did something HTC Esports at the end of last year. Mobilytics before that. So yeah, quite a few brands. I don't know. I mean, Kelby, are you saying 10 years is too much experience to need? Like that's.
It's just very interesting to me because I think anybody, so like you'll get a lot of people with solid resumes and a lot of background, but in my experience,
I mean, what you probably need is somebody with a Rolodex, right?
Yeah, but so based on what I've seen, it's always very helpful. In addition to the Rolodex, you need to have somebody who understands the space really well in order to be able to sell it. And I feel like a lot of people, based on what I've seen through different sales cultures and companies I've been a part of, if you have that much experience, you may be a very competent seller, but the odds that you're actually an esports fan is not very high because you're probably older and have more professional experience, and like esports just misses.
So what if they paired some like a person who has done like all these mega deals with somebody like a Kelby May who knows how to sell esports stuff but doesn't necessarily have like the top tier relationships with everybody?
Perfect pairing. Not saying me specifically, but yeah, somebody who has esports specific sales experience, I think is the good combo there.
Cool. All right, so there's something there. Well, hey, why don't we start getting into the calls? If you guys want to talk about MSI, if you want to make predictions on how that's going to go, I think we'll try to do a Hotline League next week. But if we don't, like now's your chance to kind of make something happen. Or have an interesting conversation.
To be nocturnal, so we can do like a European one.
Okay. Well, we'll figure it out. But we can talk about that. We can talk about Oakland. We can talk about the sales stuff. We can talk about anything you guys want. It's Hotline League. It's your show. So why don't you guys let us know? Mark, you want to give the spiel?
Yeah, the way that you let us know is that we have a Discord. And I'm posting it in the Twitch chat right now. You're going to want to join that Discord. And then there is going to be voice channels called Pleb Calls and Pleb Calls 2. You're going to want to join one of those. And then there's a text channel above it called Plebs Topics. And within that, you're going to want to type whatever your hot take is. So you think Oakland won't be that cool. You think Oakland will be the best venue ever. You're not looking forward to MSI. Whatever it is, give us your take on what you want to talk about. Not just the question or what the topic is, but actually your take so we can get a feel for what we're getting into. Because sometimes we don't know what we're getting into.
Very true. Now, for those of you that are subs, and there are so many of you guys joining right now, by the way, thank you very much. There is a subs topics section on the Discord. We check that as well. There's a little bit less competition there with people putting in their topics or hot takes, so there's a bit of an increased chance of getting to call in via that. So while Mark is populating that, I want to do two things. First off, I want to shout out to Crave Zero, who said good to see Kelby back. Kadalis, $40, who put less than 3. Real Foxy gifted a sub to Endercast, Berserker, The Starfather, Jassit 1, Echo CD, Mr. Man 3, and XDobu U, who have all subbed or supported. And thank you guys so much. For those of you that are watching right now, if it's not too late in your area, you want to stick around, I am going to stay on stream for a little bit afterwards and maybe do an AMA and a hangout just to kind of help raise some funds for my MSI trip, which will be starting shortly. Mark, I know normally you pull a couple people in the waiting room, but should we just start off and then maybe whenever we do the sponsor break, you can pull some more?
Yeah, I have one guy ready to go, so let's do that.
Okay, cool. Kelby, are you excited?
We're going to do our first caller at 8:40.
What's that?
I said we're doing our first caller at 8:40.
If we want to talk about Avengers and their... Hey, we got Chris10227 who is on the show. Can I just call you Chris? Chris10227.
When is it okay to talk about Avengers, really?
What's that?
Mm,
No, I was
It's
just
been
making
like
a joke
2
about the
weeks.
Fortnite thing.
probably the end of
You're
Ryan
interrupting me. We
Pierce.
got to talk about Chris. We got to talk to
We
Chris.
have to
Chris.
You have to wait a month to spoil Avengers, guys.
Yeah,
A
yeah.
month?
We're not going to
Greater
spoil it.
than
We're
that.
just talking
Greater than
about
that.
the Fortnite thing. Chris, can I call you Chris?
Yeah, sure.
Where are you calling from?
I'm calling from the Caribbean.
From the Caribbean? That is
Yeah.
so cool. I
Yeah.
love it when we get international callers, and I gotta admit, I don't know if I would have ever predicted it. We'd get a caller from the Caribbean. How is the Caribbean right now? Because I expect it to just be paradise.
That's a misconception, but Caribbean's pretty nice.
Which
Okay.
I'm in
island are you on?
Trinidad. I'm in Trinidad.
Okay.
Nice.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Well, what do you want to talk about on the show today?
So I wanted to talk about having like a team dynasty versus having like a rotating set of like champions. So like how TSM has a dynasty, well had a dynasty now, versus every LCS having a separate different winner, or in Worlds having a separate winner every time.
And what which one do you prefer?
I think like because I'm a TL fan, right? So I think when TL is at the top, I'd prefer having TL as a dynasty. But then something like if I like when I disliked TSM, I'd rather TSM get toppled. So I just wanted to hear you guys take on that.
So you're in favor of dynasties when it involves your favorite team, but when it's not your favorite team, you hate dynasties. It sounds like.
Yeah, pretty much. It's a double standard.
I think that that's it's a little unfair.
Yeah.
No, I
Yeah.
think regardless, it'll be nice to have a rotating set of champions. Even if my favorite team is losing.
I mean, and one way to relate this back to MSI is that we don't have SKT at MSI.
Yeah, we don't have a dynasty this year for MSI.
Yeah. So it's an interesting conversation. Glad to have it a little bit more broadly, but also kind of kicking off of the MSI topic. So Kelby, I don't know if it's you or Mark maybe that want to talk on this. Kelby, I know you've been a fan of certain teams. I feel like you tend to be interested in teams that have dynasties.
Yeah. So what I think is that dynasties are good up until a point for whatever is building the best narrative. I think is really cool, and you see it a lot in traditional sports over longer periods of time, where you'll cycle out through different periods in sports where certain teams are really strong, and then obviously for that home area, it's awesome for those guys. But then whenever they're being challenged each year, it's interesting for everybody else to see if they will actually be toppled. And then when the fall finally does happen, or like, when the Warriors blow a 3-1 lead to the Cavs, and LeBron James like starts to make the push for like GOAT and stuff like that. That's really interesting. I think that in League it's interesting because we kind of see not necessarily a team dynasty, but a region dynasty. And a lot of people talk about like, is it problematic for the viewership of the game at the international level when no other region stands a chance? And I think that's kind of valid, because ultimately I do think you want to have at least the impression that somebody can be beaten. It's good for narrative. Otherwise, like if the story's spoiled for you, it's less interesting, right? But yeah, I think like if teams are winning and they're doing a lot of good creation around their winning, like TSM has done in North America specifically, then I think it's strong for a region. But I also like, the fact that along the way we did have CLG and C9, who are other big brands, winning as well. And obviously now we got TL in there, but it would be. Did I say something?
No, Chris. I think it was just moving his mic. It's
Yeah,
fine.
Chris.
Oh, okay. And then it would be problematic, though, in my mind, if we achieved a state of. I don't know. I actually don't know about how I feel about like full parity. If that's like.
Where everyone is equal, you're saying, where anything can happen. Yeah, because you end up in a world where like nothing matters because any team, like it's all kind of up in the air, and it's kind of hard to create a storyline out of like randomness, right?
Well,
anybody could win, yeah.
I think the problem with the anyone can win narrative, specifically in League, is that they basically play like 1 to 2 tournaments a year, interregionally, and so like you don't have enough data points to actually even ever make that argument that like any team can win, because like one team will win half the international competitions because there's two. Whereas like in Melee, to talk about that scene, when it was like 2013 through 2015, it felt like, you know, everyone had like their different peaks. Where it's like he was dominant for 3 or 4 months, and this guy was dominant for 6 months. But it felt like anyone could win, and those tournaments were so fun to watch because it was like, wow, that guy just popped off this tournament. That was really cool. Yeah. But they had tournaments, you know, all the fucking time. In League, it's like you would never even know if you're in a state of parity. You just don't have enough data.
So that's at the international level. At the regional level, like, it is fair to say, I think that TSM had a dynasty for quite some time. And I remember at a certain point in time, I started to not root against TSM, but hope for their loss, because I just got tired of like, and another time and TSM won. Like, that is what made the CLG win in 2015 at Madison Square Garden like such this epic moment in League of Legends and North American history, because you saw like you almost had like the opposite of a dynasty with CLG, who under Kelby May's leadership just lost a lot. And as soon as he left, you know, like, things really turned around for that team. So
the very next split, in fact.
Yes. So it created such a good moment. I don't know. I think it's the type of thing where I don't think you ever want a dynasty to continue for too long. I think if League of Legends ends and the Korean dynasty has never really been toppled, and it's just sort of like, if you look back, like, Korea just pretty much wrecked the entire time, that's kind of a bad feeling. But in a world where you do see, like a North America or an EU, especially one of those two regions, I think, topple like a Korea at the end of the year in Worlds or something, that's going to feel like such an epic moment.
I feel like it's important for China to win. Yeah, because they're the biggest player base region.
Yeah.
I think, getting back to the regional point, I feel like a degree of dynasty is good because it gives like players a real chance to like build their legacy, which I think is important. But I think if there's like this weird balancing act between like being dominant in a good way and being too dominant and making it not fun, and it felt like the TSM with Doublelift was like probably going too far in that direction, or like if he came back for another split and they were like, yeah, we're fine winning NA, and that was their approach, then like I think you would have started to like run that risk in North America, potentially.
Yeah, I was fine with that though.
But like you heard Chris saying, that kind of about like, are you a fan of TSM? Great, you probably don't care.
Yeah.
Conversely, you end up in a weird situation where I think a lot of people expected, I think viewership outperformed expectations this year for the finals because you didn't have a TSM in the finals, right? Like, I've heard some rumors that if you poll North American League of Legends fans, 50% of them say that they are TSM fans. And so in a world where like 50% of the fan base is, you know, so used to having their team play and compete in the finals year over year after year, and then you suddenly give them a finals where they're not in it, like, that could potentially be disastrous. So I actually think dynasties and like the fan base that can be built around them can be detrimental from like a business and health standpoint, because of like the bandwagon effect and people like cheering for winners, like, you're creating such a unfair distribution of like fandom and interest into this one team.
Yep.
So I don't know, Chris, do you have anything else that you think of the narrative, or sorry, the conversation around dynasties and all that?
Well, like, I think alternately to what you just said is also, I think it generates a lot of interest when two teams that are not normally in finals play too. So
yeah, I think that's cool. I think that there was it was cool to sort of see like what would happen in a world where TSM wasn't just there to take the win. So that's fair. It does build kind of like a counter narrative as well. So, hey, Chris, I want to thank you so much for calling in. It was really good to hear from you, and thanks for calling in all the way from the Caribbean. Thanks for calling in, Chris. Okay, he took off.
Thank you.
I hope he didn't feel like he had to get disconnected himself or anything like that. Really quickly, Mark is off collecting our next victim candidate, depending on if Part's on the show or not.
Hey!
I want to give a second to shout out our sponsor, our partner, As I Mute Davidson, who just joined the channel. and Omen by HP. They are the proud supporter of this show. I hope they're proud. You know, this show, there's a lot of craziness that happens.
Until we hear otherwise, they're proud.
Until we hear otherwise, they're proud to support the show. You guys have heard me talk about Omen by HP. In fact, they've been doing so much cool stuff in the esports space for so many years now. Basically, ever since they really started, kind of creating their brand and their voice and who they are in the space. They've known they wanted to be aligned with discussion around competitive video games. And so not only have you seen them sponsor things like Overwatch League, but they sponsored CLG. That's an announcement that came out recently. And this today I was filming something at a studio nearby, and somebody just turned on the Omen by HP Twitch stream, which you guys can check out over at twitch.tv/Omen by HP. And they had the Omen Dojo going with Stixay, who was giving lessons on how to get better as an ADC. So, they've been doing a whole lot of cool stuff in the space. I am leaving with Broden on Wednesday to MSI, as we've discussed previously. We'll be traveling with Omen by HP gear, similar to what Mark is holding right now. I don't think we'll bring a keyboard, but he's got a keyboard in his hand, which is it's a little dark. You can't tell, but it is.
Not in there anymore.
Mark tries to help with this stuff.
I try to help. It's like I've been sick. This has been great about keeping me healthy.
Yeah.
It's not going to be an official usage of the product, but it really helps with my sickness.
Anyway, so we'll be traveling to Europe, and we'll be doing all of our edits, all of our production on Omen by HP gear. This is streaming off of an Omen by HP computer and Omen by HP monitors. What I'm looking at, my point is, look, I use their stuff. They don't tell me that I have to tell you that it's great, but I've really enjoyed all the stuff that I've used by them. Their stuff is great. And one of the cool things, by the way, is I've seen a lot of people tweeting at me, specifically saying, like, I got this laptop or this notebook because of the support of Omen by HP for Hotline League. I got this monitor. That stuff is so great. I appreciate it so much. I just want to say thank you so much to them for supporting the show, for allowing Mark and I to have a financially profitable endeavor, and quite frankly, like, their support of shows like this is sort of what allows me to stay independent and take risks on things like MSI. So thank you guys so much for supporting Omen by HP. Thank you so much to Omen by HP for the support, and be sure to check them out. You can check them out on Twitter, on Twitch, and elsewhere. So now we move on to our next caller, who's Davidson, who is a frequent caller into Hotline League, who is up early his time. How's it going, Davidson?
It's going good.
And for those that don't know, do you want to let everybody know where you're calling from?
I'm calling from Sweden.
From Sweden.
I remember Davidson.
Yeah.
Davidson's cool.
Davidson
Dude,
is
I
great.
remember you
Because
too.
Davidson likes NA, man.
Yeah, he does. He's a big North America fan.
Well, I don't know
Europe.
how much you guys will like Davidson after this.
Shit.
Oh no,
Davidson, do you need
what are
to-
you about to do, dude?
Davidson, do you need to drop
We
out?
had
Is
such
that?
a good relationship.
Are you having
up to this
technical
point.
issues?
I'm super scared.
Okay.
It's not about NA being bad, but more about EU being better.
Oh, what? I don't. It's all relational. Davidson, what do you
We-
want to talk about on the show
We
today?
accept that because eventually those EU stars come to NA. So
Yeah.
go
Eventually.
ahead. Yeah.
Uh,
Continue.
We just look at MSI really as a scouting opportunity for North America.
Yeah.
Davidson, what do you want to talk about on the show today?
So, so I think this year's MSI will be the starting point of EU contending for #1 in international tournaments like
Wow.
Worlds again.
Whoa.
Wow. Okay.
Again? You're throwing way back, by the way. We're going
Yeah,
back
no,
to like
that's season
season
one, dude.
2 and season 1.
Yeah.
I would say season 2 like
Half of it.
Dude, I watched
What?
the season 1. I was so hyped for that.
Okay.
CLG if CLG EU beats Frost in the semifinal, like I don't know.
Or if they
TPA
won that OGN, maybe.
Yeah, which they
But
were
they
up
didn't.
2-0 and crushing game 3. Yeah.
We
I
just
It was-
gotta
anyways,
bring
I
back-
think they were in contention. I think they were.
Yeah, they were in
team.
contention.
Yeah.
I love Davidson because he's just got, like, he wakes up early and you're up. He's like, all right, there's that North America show. All those NA guys are watching it. Time for me to call in and set the record straight. So why do you
Muscle some
think?
gimmies.
But
Why is Europe going to do so well?
so, especially because it's Fnatic that's gonna represent MSI at this year. So they had a lot of time to gel together, and we saw at this World Championship last year that it kind of fell apart. They kind of got it together, but they weren't a total team. And we've seen now in the spring splits that they have really worked out their macro issues, like Reckless have talked about, with Caps not being able to play side lane and so on. And I really think this makes them a really strong team, and with them getting exposure from better teams and more international exposure, I think they can bring that back to the EUSS, and especially to next year's franchising that will bring together a lot of talents into really good teams.
So why wouldn't it make more sense that if EU was to go forth and have a dynasty or a competition to be, you know, number one or consistently number two, that would happen next year when we have franchising take place?
So I think me saying that it's the start of it, I think it's just this going to be the jumping pad.
Okay.
And franchising will just be another step upon it, because I think there's a lot of really good talent in EU, but they are so mismatched. They are so just spread out, so like inconsistent teams, but with such a great players. So I think franchising and new teams will really pick up on that and see what like Schalke did wrong this split and so on, and work on that and improve on that.
Yeah. What do you think of this, Mark?
I think I agree more with the second half of the points with regards to like the infrastructure stuff and potentially franchising helping out a lot. I have a hard time believing like this tournament will go better for Fnatic than last year's MSI did for G2. I think that is basically as good as it could possibly go, and I don't think Fnatic will have the same results.
Why not? What's the difference?
I think just with how G2 was a little bit more, well, one, I think they got kind of lucky to get there with, didn't they have to beat Flash Wolves, right? And China lost to Korea, if I remember. Well, regardless.
Like that, yeah.
Yeah, regardless of that, I think I liked how G2 played. It was less, it felt like less unidimensional, where it was like, hey, Perks is pretty good, and Sven is good, and they have like a lot of different people who can pop off. And then here, really, I know Caps is good, and I don't want to put any hate on him, but their play style is so clearly like the Reckless show. So I don't know. It just feels like, especially with how many teams run through their AD carry right now, plus the meta runs through their AD carry, for Fnatic to beat RNG and Kingzone and like that kind of stuff, that means that like literally you're going to say that they're going to play around Reckless better than these other teams are going to play around their AD carries, which I don't think will happen. And if it does, then like massive hats off to them. I can see them doing well. I can see them doing better than North America, but I can even see them potentially doing as well as G2 did in the best case scenario, where like they make finals and lose to Korea. But I don't think it'll even be that good.
Davidson, how well do you think EU is going to do at this tournament? Even if you're saying it's sort of like the jumping pad or the launch of what will happen next year, like what does that mean for Fnatic at this MSI? How well do you think they'll place?
So I think they will only lose one game against the it's Kingzone, right?
Yeah.
It's a new name. Yeah, Kingzone in the groups, and they will go to 5 games in the final.
Okay, but you think they'll lose?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a really hard series. So
are you saying that? Does that mean you think there's a chance they could win MSI?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean,
Davison, can I ask you a follow-up?
He said they're going back to #1 international, all the way to the top, Travis.
But MSI
They have to win.
MSI is easier than the Worlds, so
Start somewhere.
Yeah, exactly.
Davison, can I ask you a follow-up question?
Please do.
So you had said that you thought that there was a lot of star players in Europe, but that they were mismatched, right? Scattered across different teams. They might be hard to detect because, you know, like they're on different teams and they're mismatched. Could you give me a list of some of these names for these players? I have an internal Skype group that might be interested.
Oh, yeah, sure. But I think most of them are on a contract right now.
Yeah,
At
yeah,
least a
we'll
couple
work
of
that
them.
out. Just I need names. Buyout numbers are good
Oh,
as well. I'm not worried about the money part of it.
Yeah, contracts doesn't matter in America. I just remember stuff gonna news about it as well. Um, no, but a place like upsets that plays like Nuke that have just proven again and again that he can't really perform on another level, and a mid laner is crucial to a team to perform. If you want more names, I gotta pull up the team names.
No. So I'll ask a serious question off of my meme question.
Yeah.
If Fnatic, let's say Fnatic does do very well. They do well at MSI, and I'm not saying they win, but they do well. And then they go to Worlds, and let's say they make semifinals, or maybe even they make finals, but they do not win. Do you think that Fnatic retains 100% of its roster? Because what
really
you're
like-
saying for this thing to build out and for EU to be a contender, they've got to stop bleeding talent to NA, which is our favorite meme. Or do you think that it doesn't matter that they bleed talent to NA for this to happen?
Well, because there's franchising, right?
But does franchising change it, actually?
Franchising doesn't necessarily mean the salaries between the two regions will rise.
Yeah.
I feel like it will, because I think that the people... Okay, first off, like, I think a lot of people question whether or not the value of franchise... Like, if EU LCS teams should be sold for the same price that NALCS teams are. But
it definitely should not be.
In a world where they are going to be, which is apparently what Riot's asking, you will have a lot of people that will come in with a lot of money willing to pay that. And I don't think that they're going to turn around and say like, well, I am okay with the talent that I have or the talent that I want to procure going to North America. I think those people will happily spend an extra $100,000 per player, $200,000 per player to make sure that those players don't go to North America. Is this also assuming that in we will not see a decrease in salaries in North America next year, which
You
I
think
think
we're going to see a decrease in salaries in North America?
I think there's a possibility, because I think you saw like a pretty big bump as all these guys were coming in and then trying to secure
supposed
themselves.
to double, right, year over year?
I don't know. There's not enough information out, I think, to say it.
Sure,
but
sure. The rumor is that it doubled.
Yes.
Moore's law, right? I think I heard something about that.
Yeah. So, but that's interesting, because when franchising happened in NA, salaries doubled. Do we not think that salaries will increase in EU?
Yeah, I think that's what I'm saying. Is I think salaries will increase in AU, and we might have a world where NALCS salaries either stay the same or decrease, and you might end up in a world where there's more parity here. I still think America is a better country to live in than anything in Europe, so maybe they all decide to do that. But that would be for different reasons than salary, right? So, yeah.
Well, certainly than Germany, where the... Oh, sorry to our German fan. Just kidding. Germany is really sick.
Hey, I'm going to Germany.
If they had it in Sweden, actually, and no bias, just to our caller, but I like Sweden a lot.
Davidson, actually, this is a fair question. Do you think that European franchising will sort of keep your talent in Europe and not, heading across the Atlantic?
That was the question.
Yeah, I just came up with it.
I think it will prevent it a lot, of course, because they get more paid, and there's not really any other reason to go to NA right now, because the solo queue isn't so good in rumors, and maybe for the weather, but you play computer games all day, so you don't really go out.
So in a world where salaries are close to equal, and you know that you have a better chance of going far in Worlds than you do in North America, maybe Europe is able to retain their talent.
But I think the salaries it depends on what soccer teams and so on will be accepted to the LCS, and how many and how little, if they're going to go the same way as they did with the NBA teams or not.
Yeah.
With just like 4, or they will go like full NBA and full soccer, and just Fnatic maybe, or Origin, maybe another big one.
Yeah.
We don't know, but if it may just skyrocket and players will come back, or players are too washed up because they're playing NASLQ, I don't know.
They come back and they struggle. We ruin them in North America.
Yeah.
Perhaps. Well, hey.
Yeah, Bjergsen's terrible now, dude.
Thank you so much, Davidson, for calling in. I really appreciate it. It's always great to have you here, and I no ill will based off of your controversial opinions.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Thanks, dude.
Great content, dude.
Yeah, have a good one.
Have a good day.
All right.
That'll be super interesting to see, actually, I think.
Yeah.
What happens if is it 100% that it's happening?
Yes.
Or is it just rumored?
Yes, it is happening, and the rumor is the price. If the price is going to be the same, because I don't think they've come out and said it, but I think it's probably pretty safe. It's hard to imagine, like, I do not personally think that a NALCS franchise slot is equal to an EULCS franchise slot for a number of reasons that are not necessarily related to the skill of the players or anything like that. It's just like market forces are different, and so it's hard to say. I don't know, but I think it doesn't matter. Like, if you are running EULCS, it's probably hard for you to say that to yourself, to say, like, well, mine is maybe only worth 80% of the value, or 75 or 90%. Like, you probably want to say, no, we're the same. You know, it's just it's an interesting thing, especially if that gets out. Like, it's a weird situation. We got a Death Reaper 33 on the show. Death Reaper, where are you calling from?
I am calling from Regina, Saskatchewan.
From Saskatchewan,
Nice.
Okay. Canadian caller. What?
How are you guys doing today?
What do you want?
How are you, man?
I'm doing quite well.
What do you want to talk about on the show today?
So originally when I was going on, I wanted to try to discuss whether or not this MSI could really impact TL's success for the summer split going forward. And then when I was thinking about it, I kind of started to flip-flop on my take on what I was thinking. So I wanted to more put a question out for you guys to get your opinion on it. Just based off, I know for most, because I'm more into traditional sports itself, that going into say a tournament or anything like that, where you have a lot of success riding into it and you come to fall flat either by getting knocked out in the group stage or even going further, it can really dampen the mood and kind of set you back going forward, just because you're not gaining that, I guess, peak success. Whereas even if you fail at the beginning, there's a little bit less pressure going forward into the next season, where it's not the expectation like, oh, they got to semis, oh, they got to finals, they're going to blow the water out of everyone. We got our 2018 summer split NALCS champions here. So I just wanted to figure out what you guys thought on possibly the fact that they may either go very successful or very poorly, and how that could impact them going forward into next split.
So the idea is if TL loses dramatically, that could be better for them in summer split because there's less pressure and less hype, and maybe more motivation. Whereas if they like kill it at MSI, they might stumble a little bit in summer.
Exactly, yeah. Because the way I think of it is, sure, they might have some success even if they get through the group stage and they make it to the semis, but I feel like that might just overall cause a little bit more pressure going into it. I noticed, like, at the end of the split this season, teams like TSM, they were definitely coming on as of late. I mean, they got knocked out in the playoffs, but I don't know if you play that series 5 times more if they're going to get knocked out. But I still feel like 100 Thieves is an up-and-coming team. I don't know if perhaps teams such as, I can't think of them off the top of my head, that Clutch Gaming, I don't know if they're going to be up at the top, but I still feel like for them, they have that added edge right now, whereas they lost in the NA playoffs. But if TL has that extra expectation to succeed now because they did so well in this tournament, that it might come to bite them in the end.
Right.
I think no matter what, MSI will negatively impact Team Liquid's performance. So like almost every team that goes to MSI and competes, like feels like they always have a bit of a come down when they come back into the summer regular season. We saw that last year, and I think 2 years ago as well. For the most part, feels like just the fact that they're playing longer, they're more focused on competing, and the other teams come in more fresh during the summer split often leads to like a bit of a downtime because you're taking that time off when other teams are ramping up, as well as the fact that if they do poorly, maybe they lose some confidence. If they do really well, maybe they're overconfident, as well as the fact that I think a lot of teams will do well in summer split. Like I think TSM will bounce back pretty big. I think 100 Thieves will still be good and all that stuff. So I think no matter how you slice it, like TL will look worse in summer, regardless of whether or not you are really going to fault MSI for that. But
yeah, I don't think
they ever come back from MSI, and they are greater as a team for the experience. Most of these guys have had plenty of international experience.
Do you think they're not better long term from the experience, right? Like that short term you stumble, but
yeah, well, so like I guess if he's saying for Worlds, then maybe like
or for summer playoffs, right? Like like they did okay at MSI, but look, Team Liquid is like middle of the pack by week 4, week 5, but then they like go on some win streak, go off to playoffs, and get like second or first, you know?
Yeah, so I think potentially that would happen as well, but I think in the short term, I don't think there's any way that they come back from this and it's legitimately beneficial. So I guess it depends on the time frame of the question.
So Mark, I want to go back to your question, or your statement just a second, but I also want to get Kelby's stance first.
Yeah, I think that it is. So what you're talking about is contextual based on the team. And in my experience from what I've seen and managed and all that good stuff is that younger teams tend to be more momentum based and will have higher highs and lower lows based on performance at major events. And experienced teams tend to be more even keel. Team Liquid is a very, very experienced team as far as like the players and how much they've played internationally and been in the league and stuff like that. So I think that it probably doesn't affect them dramatically either way. Whereas like when we saw C9 come into the LCS and they were all really young, those guys were untouchable for a period of time. And they just rode their momentum really hard for the first couple splits that they were in there. And you can do that with a younger team. So for TL, I don't really see it as having a big impact on those guys, especially like knowing some of the personalities on that team. They're not like Ole and Doublelift are probably the most like erratic personalities on that team. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So do you think, sorry, Kelby, the end result here, you don't think that going to MSI will have much an effect on them either way?
Yeah, if anything, I think it's probably, unless like they have a spectacularly poor performance, I think it's a slight net positive just because they've got, you know, a little bit more experience together for synergistic reasons. But other than that, yeah, I don't think it's probably has a major effect. Just like I don't think it would have a major effect probably on TSM or something like that.
So Mark, the follow-up to your statement, which is that, you know, it might be, at least in the short term, like a net loss for them to go to MSI regardless of what happens, that implies that going to MSI is something to be avoided. Because you're not gaining anything from going.
I mean, other than international success and more fans, arguably, like, you know, I think it's seemingly, I wouldn't say proven, but it's been a demonstrable effect that like you come back from MSI, you have usually 2 weeks to get ready for the LCS, and you haven't had a break yet. So those teams usually go on break during like the first week of that, and then you're going into, you know, the new split with 1 week of practice sometimes, and as well as the fact that you might just be more burnt out in general. Like I think you do tend to see teams start slow after international competition mid-season.
But if your goal is to go to Worlds and perform well there, and MSI can lower your skill set or your capabilities a little bit, then it seems like MSI might be a detriment to that plan.
Well, I don't think it would like I said, I didn't think it was a long-term question. I thought this was saying like this will help them in summer, whereas like I don't think it will help them in summer.
But
really,
might not affect their Worlds chances.
Yeah, I think like if you go out there and you make finals and you go and put out a great performance or some shit, then like when Worlds comes around, maybe you have a little bit more confidence in yourselves. You've been there before, kind of thing. As that roster, maybe you can talk about that effect. But there'll be a different meta. The things you learn from your last international competition in terms of in-game stuff might not be super prevalent. Like, are you burnt out from this? I think, like Kelby was saying, it kind of does depend on the team. I think long-term, probably net slight positive, assuming you don't just get shit on. And then short-term, I think it's only a negative.
Yeah. Death, do you have any, is that a good, satisfying response to sort of your thoughts on this?
Yeah, like, I guess I could see exactly what you mean by that. Like, I don't foresee them to do like spectacular. I don't foresee them to win at all. So I guess I can see in the fact that there is some positive that you did at least make it there. So there's something to hang your hat on, but I know they're not going to be satisfied with just going there to play, and that it does take a lot and it's mentally taxing for them. So I guess, yeah, it was a satisfying enough answer for that.
Yeah, gotcha.
I think for NA as a region though, like expectations are so tempered that if TL goes and they have any sort of success, it's just good for the region as a whole. And if they do poorly, everybody's like, whatever.
Do you feel that way? Because I feel like this year for the first time, it's really neutral. Like oftentimes when TSM goes, people hype it up a ton. Whenever CLG went to MSI, like people downplayed and they were like, oh, Stixxay came out and said, we think we're the second best team here. And I was just like, oh, these guys are a wild card team, essentially. This year, I feel like, and maybe I've just missed the conversation somehow, no one really knows what to expect with Team Liquid.
Yeah, but based historically on NA performances, like if Team Liquid does poorly, everybody would just be like, oh, it's NA international. But if they do well, it's like, ooh, nice, very nice.
Yeah. Wait, what is it like?
Ooh, nice, very nice.
Okay,
like CLG didn't have real expectations, and I don't think TSM had real expectations last year either, where it was like, oh boy, Turtle, here we go. And
I thought people thought TSM would outperform G2.
Maybe outperform G2, but I don't think there was like much hope of really doing well. And then
that's our benchmark for success, don't you know? If we could outperform you.
So like, but
I hear
I think
you.
after the planes where they got taken to 5 games by Gigabyte Marines, I think everyone was like, we fucking blow. And then people saw Gigabyte Marines weren't like complete shit, and then there's a little bit more confidence, and then like in the group stage, I don't know if people remember, like Trick looked awful. He was like running around on Nunu and shit, and people were like, all right, maybe
they kind of had a comeback story.
Yeah, and then they actually did really well in the knockout best of 5 portion. So like, you know, that was weird MSI, but I think for a while now, I think the general feeling has been like, hey, if we get out of groups, not bad, not bad.
Yeah. Well, hey, I think we do need to move on, but I want to thank you so much, Death, for calling in.
Oh, thanks. Do you mind if I make a quick shout out to one of my friends that's listening right now or watching, I guess?
Sure.
Hey, Mohammed. Thanks for watching.
Yeah. Thanks for calling in,
guys.
Yeah.
Thanks, man.
I like how he's like shouting out it wasn't like, hey, dude, what's up? Talk to you later. It was like, thanks for watching. Like, thanks for tuning in to my call into Hotline League. You're my audience. All right. All right. We got where were we? We got some people.
We have a caller. That's where we are.
We're need to catch up on these, Mark. Look, I'm happy though, because we've got the Jamie Dodger on the show. Jamie Dodger.
Jamie.
Is it Jamie?
It's the Jamie Dodger, yeah. Jamie is okay.
What do you want to talk about, Jamie?
You've never heard of Jamie Dodger before?
No, what is it?
Yeah, they're British like biscuits.
British
I had no
biscuits?
clue what that was either, Travis.
Is it?
It's okay.
Is
Excuse my
Dodger,
uncultured friends.
Is Dodger a biscuit?
The Jammy Dodger is.
Okay, so you
It's
can't
like a
just
brown
have a Dodger. It's a Jammy Dodger.
Is it like a pronoun?
Because I assume that a Jammy Dodger is like a Dodger that you've like put a lot of jam on. Like that's just one Jammy Dodger right there.
Like you go to Jammy Dodgers.
Oh man.
No, it's like a brand. It's like a packaging brand.
Oh, okay. So it's
like
like branded.
You buy a pack of
Jammy
Jammy Dodgers.
Yeah.
Okay.
Girl Scout cookies.
And why did you decide to make your Discord name this?
My name is Jamie, and the joke is that it's like the jammy.
All right. Well, I feel less bad about calling you Jamie. Jamie,
Hi.
I think I probably know, but I'll ask anyway. Where are you calling from?
I'm calling from the UK.
Whoa!
What
I would have
surprise.
thought Thailand. No. Jamie, what do you want to talk about on the show today?
I want to talk about how, obviously, yesterday someone posted up an Invin article about King's Own Dragon X, and how once again Koreans are hyping up other regions. And I just want to kind of get your guys' opinions and thoughts on how every single international event Koreans come out with these interviews saying how, I don't know, like TSM is going to perform, or how Fnatic is going to smash everyone or something like that. And how much of it is just them being polite, or like, you know, the
People need to
Monte
know
Cristo
there's
tweet.
a difference between what Koreans
Yeah.
say and what they mean.
The Monty tweet, yeah.
Yeah.
And if there's any truth to it, or if it's whether it's just teams underperforming and not meeting the expectations, or them just being polite. And
Which
kind of
what was
outspoken.
sorry? I'm on the Invent website. What was the interview headline? Because I missed it.
It was the interview with King's Own Dragon X.
Okay.
It was the, I believe it was Sin was quoted saying that the gap between other regions this time around is not as big as it was in the past.
Oh. Which, yes, we've all heard before, specifically from.
The gap is closing,
The gap
guys.
is closing.
So
Can I share an opinion?
That's what all the show runs on, Kelby.
no, Kelby. Sorry, no opinions allowed here.
If you're
only facts.
if you're a fight promoter, and let's say you're representing Conor McGregor, right, or Floyd Mayweather, one of the greats or something like that, right, and you're in your prime, you're gonna, whoever your fighter goes out against, they're gonna crush them. Your opponent that they're fighting, you want to get the most views, the most sales possible, right? Is it a good narrative to say that their opponent has no chance, or is it a good narrative to say that your opponent is good and this is the guy that might do the upset? You know, like they actually have all this strength, blah blah, or something like that. That's what Korea's doing.
So first off,
they're putting out fluff pieces about other regions that they know are weak, just to make it seem like there's some chance, so that their victories that they know are assured are greater than they actually are. So that the Korean narrative continues about how they're gods, when really they're just shitting on all the little kids who have no chance.
so first
What
off,
happened
Mark,
to your
for some
webcam?
reason, it's like it's like when you
I don't
put
know, dude. Like, I thought it was an internet thing.
when
and
you
then
when you
it just
open your
doesn't even-
phone camera and it's actually on selfie and you're just like, what is that? That's
No, I
what
don't
Mark
know.
is experiencing right now.
I had nothing changed. It just switched to my laptop webcam.
Well, just
and I don't-
tell the Skype to use the other one.
Thanks, fucker. I never used it before.
I don't. We've got a guest on the show right now, Mark. Can you show a
I'm not the
modicum
one
of...
trying to give tech advice to someone who's grown up on a computer.
All right,
I mean,
that-
this is what you guys get for using Skype, really.
yeah.
Listen,
no, it's true.
You Jamie Dodger Biscuit Boy? I don't need your sass, okay? I get enough from Mark and Kelby.
Assassin too.
So I'm not saying that is actually necessarily 100% the case, but Korea does have a selfish reason to make other regions look better than they may actually be.
Yeah, I mean, like the Conor McGregor stuff, like they'll usually like shit talk a fair amount too. Like, oh, I'm gonna break
Yeah.
his face so bad you won't recognize. I don't know why Conor McGregor sounds like that,
Well,
but-
except for that's the opposite, right?
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying is like there's not as much of that from the Korean side, so it's not quite hyped up the same way. But I think to Kelby's point, like, I don't think it does anyone any good to just be like, yeah, I think there's an insurmountable gap between Korea and the rest of the world.
You might as well not even tune in.
Yeah, like that doesn't get anyone hyped. Plus, if they do lose, it just makes them look even fucking stupider. So they do.
Yeah.
They go for the the safe play. They go for the safe, efficient play
So-
of respecting your opponent.
I honestly, like, I know that is such the easy thing to believe, but in talking to these guys, like, I will ask them outside of the interview ends, I'll have said that, and I'm just like, why? Why do you guys always say this shit? And that's never true. And they always honestly believe it. At least that's the vibe I get from the several players I've talked to. They honestly do feel like, and I think it's because scrims happen, shit like that happens. Everything looks like it's a little bit more close until people actually get into it. We've heard time and time again that like TSM and teams like them will just come in and like destroy everyone in scrims. Peter has told me before that about times where they're just like rampaging against like top tier teams like SKT. And then obviously like everything falls apart on stage. Now I know they're scrims don't matter, whatever, but I can understand why in these experiences you end up with teams that are hesitant to come out and be like, well, once again, Korean will reign supreme. Because if you're getting, cramped on by North American teams, like you're probably more likely to say this.
I think it's also the kind of thing where like individual skill in League of Legends is really, really hard to define because like I think at this point we all accept the fact like for the most part North American players can decently lane all right versus Korean players and they don't get smashed in lane. And then it becomes a team game and like your individual skills in that team game begin to shine and things like that. And I think that's where a lot of this comes from is like, and I don't know what the Korean perception is of North American players, but I think some people think like, oh my God, the Koreans are so much better. They're going to destroy us. And then it's like, no, it's not quite like that. Like the first 10, 15 minutes might be close. And then like they'll make a bunch of good plays and stuff like that. So I think it's maybe them kind of saying like, no, he's a good individual player. He does fine against me in lane. Or like sometimes they beat us in the early game and stuff like that. And then like scrims almost never get to like a legitimate on stage people are approaching these situations the way they would on stage. Yeah. So you never get to see the actual skill difference in scrims. Like that just never manifests in scrims when it's about Baron vision control for the next 10, 15 minutes of this scrim. It doesn't happen. And so you don't get to see that.
Scrims historically play way bloodier than stage matches, at least when I was managing teams.
I've heard that before. Well, until every now and then you just hear the two teams that are like, we scrimmed each other all week and it would just be like 9-0 by 10 minutes, and then it'd be like the opposite the next one. Like it does feel like sometimes you just get like really weird one-sided stuff. Anyway,
well, even when it's close in scrims, it's not close like it is on stage. It's like, oh, they traded a lot of kills. We're like, when it's close on stage, it's like, wow, what great vision play and rotations. And it's like,
right.
Scrims don't play like that.
So we should stream scrims and ignore tournaments because it's much more exciting to watch.
Dude, thank you for finally getting on my page, man.
Scrims
are really since 2011.
Scrims are where the hype
is.
is.
Somehow read between all those lines I said to find my true message.
Listen, Mark, there was a time where I just sort of took you at face value. Now I've kind of got like the Mark whisperer thing. Like I hear what you're saying, and when you say like everything was great at offline, I love all those people, you're really like, Pokey is the worst person on the entire planet. I get it. I now understand. I get it.
Yeah, and the best part is if we stream scrims, people will actually think TSM and these North American teams are good because they win some of those.
I think we figured out the solution to our problem. Jamie,
make NA win by streaming their scrims
by deleting real competition, by getting rid of the on-stage play.
I'm sorry, Jamie. Do you take issue with this? Seems like you might be a little EU biased. Like maybe that's why you don't like our genius idea.
I'm a NA fan.
You're a big NA fan?
I ditched watching EU in about season 2, and I've been a hardcore.
We have a place in our heart
adopter.
You used to be
a refined taste and
ahead of the meta.
I'm happy that we have a replacement for Davidson as our trader, our EU trader for the show.
Hats off to Jamie.
Who's your favorite NA team?
Currently Team Liquid.
Currently, is it like a bandwagon thing?
Not so much a bandwagon thing. I followed Double Lift when kind of a long time ago with CLG and watching him like panic kill people on Vayne for ages. And when he
I knew I liked this guy.
The whole backstab arc, played out like an anime main character, kicked off of his old team by his best friend.
Yeah.
The franchise that he built.
Yeah. Dethroned his old team. I thought it was a beautiful story.
Yeah.
And,
very good.
But I do want to come back to when Kelby said then about the Conor McGregor style kind of Koreans hyping them up.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's necessarily in their like in their mindset to hype people up, like Travis was saying, and like talking to them outside of camera shots and stuff like that, and talking to them one-on-one. You look at players like Khan that have no filter, and he just straight up was quoted saying, all top laners are going to kneel before me. So like, I think I'm with the kind of idea of these Koreans actually do think that there is a chance.
Yeah. And to be clear here, I don't think all Korean players are of the same attitude and mentality, personality, right? It's not like, when you look at Khan, and you can pretty tell how Koreans are. But yes, I do think that what has surprised me in the past is that oftentimes you have Korean players who are very vocal about, and very confident players will still give credibility to North America or Europe in a way that you wouldn't expect. And I don't think that is because they have been like trained to say nice things to help build up a match or to try to get any fans or anything like that. I think oftentimes, the majority of the time, perhaps it's for other reasons. So, yeah. Jamie, anything else you want to add here?
I kind of just want to say that I'm really looking forward to this MSI. It'll be really interesting to see all like obviously seeing double lift against Prey and Reckless, and of course Uzi for like the first time ever winning with his LPL title finally. Yeah, it'd be really cool to see all those ADCs going against each other. So yeah.
Jamie, I want to thank you for being a sub, because I noticed you're a sub on the show, so thank you so much.
I actually subbed during your AMA the other day.
Oh, thank you.
You need that MSI scroller.
Yes, yeah, thank you. It's helpful. Yeah. It's going to be expensive. Anyway, thank you so much.
All right, thank you very much, guys. Have a good one.
Thanks, dude.
Mark, don't escape yet. Don't escape.
How come EU callers are my favorite callers, dude?
I mean, Davidson said stuff you didn't want to hear.
America?
I don't think that's the case. We need to import EU callers too.
Well, you want to open the borders up, Kelby?
Have we had more?
You want to open the borders? Is that what you're saying?
Have we had more international callers this show than we've had North American callers?
Yeah,
especially if you count Canada. Have we had a single?
What about the Caribbean? Is that?
Yeah.
Have we had
Is the Caribbean
US
North
caller?
American?
No. I mean, Trinidad and Tobago is not a U.S. territory.
Let's move on before we embarrass ourselves.
American continent.
No, but like, well, we have Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico's U.S. territory.
Mr. Man 3 has subbed. XDoboU subbed. Cerubix sent 3 subs. Said, I wish for my $5 to go to Travis Gafford Gambling Fund. Bet on 17. That weird dude 25. Recursion TV. Swaggy Boog sent $5. That's for the tweet back about buying the Omen by HP monitor today. Thank you so much, Swaggy Boog. Thank you for the tweet. That really helps. That's my Jams resubbed, who's for 4 months, and he says 4 months of mistakes. Elephant Ryan subbed Authority 7, and David Murphy, Valvo Man, Jedi Mace, Sable Flag, 4 months excited that you'll be at MSI, KW Salt, 500 bits. Fenron Jenkins said 500 bits and says, can I touch Kelby's hair?
Yeah.
Which hair?
You caught who sent those bits, right, Kelby?
Wait, who?
Fenron Jenkins sent 500 bits and said,
dude, Fenron! Holy shit.
Fenron Jenkins.
My boy, dude.
Friend of the show and noted strategy. What is it? That genre called?
Grand strategy.
Grand strategy.
Oh.
Yeah. He's pretty much like one of the best Total War Warhammer 2 players in the world.
Yoni, who is a friend of mine, helps me with some stuff. He just messaged me and I just linked him to the stream, and then he immediately subs and says, Travis, which interview are you most looking forward to MSI? You can't say double lift. Peter Pang's interview. I'm very excited about Peter Pang's interview. I think that'll be good.
Is that Gabe laughing at your joke? Because that was a bad joke.
No, that was my wife.
Okay.
Oh, thank God.
That was your wife?
Not laughing at Travis's joke either.
She's watching. She's watching something.
What is it? She said it's so funny. Share it.
What are you watching?
Share it with the class.
Okay.
What? You can't say?
It's something. No. You're fine. You're fine. Don't worry.
Is it like a GIF? Is it easily shareable?
No, it's like some docudrama.
Oh.
She's laughing at docudrama?
No, I don't know. I'm getting it wrong apparently.
Get her on the show. She's gonna call it.
I said
Brittany.
I'm sorry.
We're gonna watch the whole hour show together. So
I was just looking up who Trinidad and Tobago had been settled by and stuff like that.
To the surprise of many, yes, Kelby does have a wife. He found someone to marry him. We're not sure how much he's paying her. Hitstreak, hello. Good to see you. All right.
We got ready? Can I get the next call?
I thought he was a caller for a second.
Next call.
Yeah, the greatest sale I ever made in my life.
Brittany's in the Twitch chat and she's explaining. She said, "I'm watching a YouTube video where a doctor reacts to House MD, and I'm dead." Got it. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Brittany, for clarifying that. Brandonian, is it Brandonian? You've called in before, right?
I haven't called in before,
No,
but
I've seen you before.
Like
how do I say it?
Brandonian, you got it this time. I've subbed before, and you tend to get my name wrong, but
okay. Well, listen, if you hadn't subbed all those times, maybe I wouldn't have got your name right this time.
It's not a problem.
Let this be a lesson to everybody. Sub so that I get your name right when you finally get. What do you want, or where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Orlando, Florida. Florida man.
And what do you want to talk about on the show?
Our first American caller. Right?
America.
I don't know. What do you want to talk about on the show?
So I was selected to talk about like the blatant gap between like a lot of the play-in and wildcard regions, and now like what the major regions are. So NAU, all that fun stuff.
So are you talking about the gap between the play-in teams and the, I guess, main event teams, or are you talking about a gap between all the play-in teams and each other?
The play-in teams and the major regions, so those versus those.
Okay.
So NA, EU, Korea, LPL, like all that.
All right. So what about it?
I think it's going to be a lot less competitive between those teams now and the major regions than it has been in the past.
Why? Because, I mean, normally everybody says that wildcard teams are not going to be very interesting, and then you have some really interesting moments where wildcard teams come in and surprise people, or they have like a better record than North America sometimes. Like, what makes you? Why do you feel this way?
Well, just from the showings so far, they haven't looked super great, obviously, and then on top of that, I think a lot of those regions right now have been kind of unstable. You have, like, normally in the past, you've had GAM and stuff like that. Levi's come to NA. Just little things like that I think will just kind of take them down a notch. So it's not going to be like that, those cheesy strategies you see that are just going to be like huge upsets because of like crazy mechanical plays off of like a Kane like at Worlds versus IMT, for example.
What about like Gambit?
I think Gambit's still actually, they're probably one of the best play-in teams, if not the best right now.
Because they've got a ton of hype, I think.
I think
people are excited about them.
They have the best chances. I just think they just still don't have much of a chance, is like GAM did. Like GAM just was, I think there was a little bit something special about them.
Sure.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, Gigabyte Marines, to be clear for those that don't know.
Yeah, I think it's tough. I feel like there's always one or two wildcard teams that are like respectable, not quite. Like they're like, you know, an upper team. They would be an upper team in like a region like ours or something, or like, you know, they'd be a fourth place team, something like that. But I think there's just such a big gap within the wild cards themselves is like the bigger problem. Because if every team was super massive, or every team was Gigabyte Marines, or every team was Albus Nox Luna, or whatever it is, like, I think it wouldn't feel quite as bad. But like, you spend this whole time to get to like the teams that you kind of already knew were going to be the best of those, and like you get a surprise every now and then. But it does feel, I think, a little weird to spend a week to get to that point a little bit.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Like, the regions themselves just tend to be less competitive. Like, Gigabyte Marines was just in a more competitive large region, because I remember seeing some like infographic talking about like the size of regions and like how large Vietnam was too. So you'll get the like a lot more of those kind of hidden gem talent players like Levi again that just kind of show up and just surprise everybody out of nowhere. And I think overall like those regions like within their own competition, they're just more competitive. So the level of play becomes a little bit higher.
Right. Like I think you can look at Turkey, like the TCL, you can look at Vietnam, and maybe the CIS region, and like those are the three regions that generally do well at international competitions. And like OPL always sucks, LGL always sucks, the LATAM regions usually suck. So like it does feel a little, you know, bad to constantly see those kind of competitions going on, or at least for me, because like it's a lot of the same players. I think for the most part, like you're seeing the same guys pretty often.
Yeah, like I said, I just think that's part of like the large populations like that like are in most regions. Like you have Korea obviously that has like a huge player base. Like even their solo queue, you get pros from the LPL playing on their server. You have pros from Vietnam playing on their server, so on and so on. Taiwan, and you're gonna just have like a larger number of players playing against each other, scrimming against each other, and just getting better together, which I think is just like kind of another reason EU and NA kind of just always falls a little bit short. Not necessarily just solo queue, but scrim wise and whatnot.
Mark, do you think that we'll see a time where these regions start to kind of feel as competitive as some of the other ones?
Yeah, I can believe it, but it feels like you have to. I feel like you can kind of just tell based off like those kinds of other factors that Brandonian was talking about with like what does their scene look like? Do they have like a real functioning scene? Do they have like large player base numbers and things like that? And do like are orgs really invested in like running this like a actual, you know, business? Those kinds of things really I think can help you kind of tell like which of these are really competing well. And I don't know. I think like the LMS is another reason that does all right. And I think they'll get there. And I think this international competition stuff helps them. But it feels like we're constantly picking the same kind of pool of talent pretty consistently.
Yeah.
With the exception of when Gigabyte Marines kind of like exploded onto the scene for a year.
Yeah.
I don't know, Kelby, do you have any thoughts on this?
I unfortunately cannot contribute much in this department because
Is it because they're wildcard regions?
Yeah, I don't watch those regions.
Tough life.
Brandonian,
yeah.
Any additional thoughts?
I was it's kind of piggybacking off of like the last caller a little bit. And just like how like NA is like memed by Korea, but I don't really think it's necessarily a meme. I think we're just kind of slower as a region to like adapt. So like even like internationally, you'll see we'll do very well week 1, but then week 2 teams adapt to us and they whoop our ass.
Yeah.
To put it lightly. But then like you have regions like EU that'll kind of make it out of groups and stuff like that because they kind of adapt. And I think that's a bigger part of it. Not consistently make it out of groups and whatnot, but they'll do a bit better than NA, just internationally speaking.
Right.
And I think part of that goes back to like that whole topic of like NA just likes to kind of recycle a lot of talent, or we're pulling from EU talent. So we're not testing enough. So I think what like NA would have to do to kind of compete as a region would need to kind of risk losses, like risk a lot, like not maybe placing first, second, third, fourth, like during the regular season to actually develop talent as a region. So it's like you risk your team's name in order to make the region better in a way, if that makes sense.
The Golden Guardian strategy.
Yeah, actually though, in a way, like until now we have, I mean, they're recycling a little bit now. We have Mickey back and stuff like that, and he like 50-50 Mickey and all that.
Yeah. Hey, thank you so much, Brandonian, for calling in, and thank you also for being a sub. We've had 2 subs in a row, but really appreciate your support.
No problem. Thanks, man.
Thanks. Have a good one. Mark is so quick. Mark like wants to get through these calls. You can tell he's hopping into the next call. Boba Cola gifted a sub to Luna Bumblebee Tuna. Thank you so much. And Real Foxy 1 gifted a sub to Hard. Thank you so much for the subs. We have, I believe, our next caller coming in any minute. Kelly, what's going on over there? What's going on in the Bay? Are you muted? Did you mute yourself? You're muted.
Sorry, I muted myself because Brittany was laughing a lot.
Oh, tell Brittany.
Can we swap Kelby out for Brittany?
I wish. I've been asking that for years.
You can.
Just even as a friend.
Do you want to?
Let's see.
I think it's a little late in the show.
Let's see what caller. At some point in time, we'll get a caller.
How about we just start the next episode with her instead of Kelby, so we get her for the whole episode.
Do it. Do it.
Con is on the show. Welcome back, Con. It's been a bit.
Yeah, it has. That's okay. I'm always here, loving the show.
Where are you calling from again?
Good old Idaho.
Idaho, that's right. And what do you want to talk about on the show today?
Well, I was talking about I've always been pretty, not negative at Riot, but pretty tough on them, and especially the NALCS and how they're handling things. But I'm kind of giving calling to give them praise about the Oakland thing and how they handled it.
What is exciting to you about that?
Well, first, this is just I don't live near Oakland, but just checking plane tickets to San Fran and Oakland today, and even hotel prices, they're a lot more affordable than a lot of the previous locations. And also, I was what I liked was it was somewhere different. I know a lot of people were piggybacking on the idea that NALCS is played in California. Why is it always in California? But as somebody who's moved from the East Coast to the West Coast, I know people over there don't understand just how far away these places are.
Yeah, I mean, California's 5th largest economy officially as of this week. You know that?
In the world.
Yeah. Yep.
So, I think Riot made a smart choice. They said things earlier. I think there was a lot of hate that, I understand the Midwest. Midwest deserves something here. They should have got this one. They should have gotten one time something. But, the South, the West Coast or the Southwest really hasn't gotten anything since, Las Vegas. Am I wrong?
Well, they've had multiple finals in LA. All Stars is at the NALCS studio. I mean, NALCS is there all the time. It's hard for me not to feel like the West does get a significant amount of stuff. It's interesting. So you're of the take that it's good. First off, I think it's great that they announced it early. I'm happy that they chose a arena that has 20,000 people in it. I don't know. I have mixed feelings about the Bay Area situation. I think, granted, they are IMs, but IM had a hard time selling arenas with League stuff in that area. I think it might be harder to fill those seats than people expect. So I am a little worried about that. And I don't know.
Historically, Bay Area events for esports, attendance has been pretty poor.
Yeah, and that's my concern. Is it's weird because you would expect it to be good because you've got a bunch of tech people in the area, but for some reason they just don't really show up. So I don't know if that's because the demographic is not there. Maybe it's more of a college age group that's driving ticket sales or whatever. But I am a little nervous for this event. And I also from visiting Oracle. Oracle's a pretty old arena. To my understanding, they're literally replacing it next year. I don't know. I just I'm not as hyped about semifinals being there. I'm just happy they announced it, and I'm happy that's not in a small. I'm happy it's not in the NALCS studio.
Con, you said some people were hating on it. I didn't see much of that. So is it that prevalent, or what were their points?
Well, there was the Midwest has a severe kind of gripe to it, but there was a lot of people mention they're never going to do something in DC, they're never going to do something in Detroit, they're never going to go to Philadelphia. And it was as somebody who lived in lived in Pennsylvania for 17 years, and I live on the West Coast now. I live right on the Idaho-Washington border. Seattle for me is 6 hours away. If I took that 6 hours where I lived in PA, I had 10 major cities within 6 hours.
Yeah.
So for people in DC to complain that we never get an event, I'm you guys had plenty of MSG is closer to you than it is for like even if I got like a Seattle Vancouver event.
Yeah, I guess that's fair. Yeah, I mean, I am less sensitive to the people who are like, wait, there was a big event in Florida. I want to have one in like Georgia or whatever. I do think Texas is due for one, but again, I've kind of said this on the show. Like, I've heard rumors that there's like tax complications with Riot holding events in Texas, and that makes it actually much harder. I've never heard any more details than that. It's like a rumor.
Chopper in the thread that announced this event said that again, that like Texas is just, I guess, a bitch to set things up for
oh, he actually said it.
Well, he didn't say they're bitch, but like you can read it. He said like due to tax / laws, it's hard to do it in Texas.
Yeah, he made it pretty. He didn't even. I don't think he said Texas. He just said some Midwest states, but it was pretty obvious that he meant Texas.
Yeah, it was in the Reddit thread.
Oh, okay. Well, it wouldn't surprise me based off of the stuff that I've heard before. I can't find it at the moment, but I believe you. So I don't know. I think Texas would be nice. I'm happy that Canada got some stuff. I think it'd be cool to go back to the Midwest. Like Chicago could do it again, potentially after they had a Worlds event there. So I don't know. I'm like 50-50.
I would love to see it in like a St. Louis or somewhere like. When I think Chicago, it's Midwest, but that's still not like if you said like Chicago is Midwest. There's like a lot of people in your Oklahomas and your Texas.
What about Boise?
Oh, that's like not even north. That's Northwest.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah.
I was thinking because whatever.
But also, I just don't think people on the East Coast realize how far some of these states and cities go.
Chopper said, for some of the regions being mentioned, there are some tricky tax and legal challenges we need to work through. For others, it's a low number of venues that can hit all of our technical needs and meet our tight availability windows. So, I guess didn't explicitly say Texas, but you could somewhat imply. I don't know how MLG used to do it over there. Maybe they had some other deal. Who knows? I know that sometimes taxes and legal stuff can get really complicated. But Hitstreak, who is a friend of the show, is in Twitch chat right now. He's building up Bay Area, saying like there's so much to do in the Bay Area. And I guess I didn't know this, but Oracle's apparently been recently renovated, so maybe that will be a hype. Maybe it'll be better than I remember from whenever IM used to be there. So I don't know. It's an interesting topic though, and I do appreciate you calling in, Con. I'm curious. I'm just really curious to see how it sells out because, as Kelby says, Bay Area events have been hard to make happen. But for all the people that are like, I would have flown and I can't fly. Like you can fly here. You can fly into the Oakland airport. You can fly into SFO, and you can go to this. So maybe
I'm
it's
sure
a
the
big
event
opportunity
still
for people
sells
like
out.
I'm pretty sure I think this event will sell out just because IEMs, for some reason, like small international competitions like IEMs, Rift Rivals, even MSI a little bit, seem less major than NALCS finals or EULCS finals.
I think the third and fourth place match will be really tight if there's not a popular team there. Like if TSM makes it to third and fourth, then I'm sure a lot of people will show up. But imagine a world where there's no TSM. This has always been the problem with these bigger venues is that you can't sell out third and fourth place match, generally speaking, and that's like a pretty big financial cost, I think.
Well, I think the third, fourth place match is the stupidest thing they have for these LCSs. I'd rather them host like Academy Championships on the other day.
Oh, that's a great way to make sure nobody shows up.
Yeah, that's a...
Eesh. Yeah, but no, I agree. I don't like third, fourth place match either.
Yeah.
It's for championship points. Woo!
Whoa!
And then
everybody cares so much.
And then the last comment I'll make is based off the last guy. And he just pointing out that if you take away C9, Wildcards has made it out of groups just as many times as any other NA team has since the adoption of the new group system, if you take away C9. So maybe we aren't that far different than they are.
Well, why would we take away C9?
Yeah.
That doesn't make sense.
What are you trying to do here, Con?
Hey, if you take away the successes, you only got failures.
Yeah, but those regions all get one team when we get three.
Hey, don't be rude to the callers, Mark.
Sorry, there's multiple wildcard teams.
We're gonna go Parth on this bitch right now.
Oh, okay, all right.
We got two. We got three.
Con, thank you so much for calling in.
Thank you guys, and thank you again for always hosting this. Good luck in MSI, Travis.
Yeah, thanks for being a Twitch sub and a mod. Appreciate it.
Here's what you can do. You can email me a paper, and if you want, we will publish it, and we'll talk about why the wild card. What?
Hey, that's an amazing amount of work. All right, if Parth is willing to read a whole thesis on something,
5,000 word minimum.
I would not read anything by anybody. I don't even read books by like James Joyce or anything. I'm not going to read.
Here's the thing. I want you to narrate your paper. I want an audio recording.
Ooh, I would audible it. There's traffic.
Yeah.
Donkey Punch Dan resubbed for 5 months. Thank you so much. And Blue Jay 1344 subbed for 2 months and says it just keeps asking me to share this. So I guess that's nice of you. Thank you
also,
guys so
for
much.
the record, I'm on Parth's side, even though I'm making jokes.
I would like to say, by the way, some of you might have seen I did a video. It's on the YouTube right now talking about how I'm going to MSI on Wednesday. I don't have a sponsor for MSI, so I'm covering it, and it's fine. I can do this if anybody wants to help support. There's been some very, very generous people, Hitstreak being one of them in the chat right now, who have helped pitch in to support and help lessen the blow for me, so you guys can do that. And I'll stick around after the show is done for an AMA and maybe some call-ins and stuff to kind of help continue the fundraising drive. Irish Blizzard is on the show. He's also a sub. I'm a little worried that the non-subs are going to riot soon. But Irish Blizzard, where are you calling from?
Hey, I'm calling from Cornell University.
Oh, I've been to Cornell.
Oh, yeah?
Isn't that in Ithaca?
Ithaca.
Am I wrong?
Oh, it is. It is.
Oh, it is. Okay, sorry, you kind of cut out. What?
Irish Blizzard. I just have to point out the fact that you didn't tell us the region. You had to let us know that you were calling from an Ivy League university, which I love and appreciate about you.
Hello, I'm calling from my PhD.
Yeah.
You should. Like, I want somebody to call in sometime, and their name on Discord is just like Juan Julio PhD or MD or whatever. You know, just flaunting this. Listen, Irish Blizzard, I hope you feel comfortable. This is a safe space. We only want our callers to feel comfortable. What would you
Unless they're going to write a paper, which is perfect for an Ivy League.
What would you like?
Yes.
What would you like to talk about on the show today?
My topic was about constant changes in video games. They're kind of a double-edged sword.
He's cutting out for me.
The recent changes in what?
It's in video games.
What in video games?
Your microphone like picks you up late, so why don't you start with an to warm your microphone up and then...
So I wanted to talk about patch notes in video games.
Okay.
That worked. Keep talking.
Put the off first.
I wanted to talk about how they're both good and bad for the scene.
Okay. Just you have to go all at once. Just say it all go.
So I think that they're good and they're needed for video games to keep them fresh and like to make that people still keep playing the game. To like traditional sports, lots of it.
So you think it's good to patch? It sounds like what you're saying is it's good to patch frequently because it allows esports to stay fresh and engaging in a way that traditional sports doesn't.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
But were you gonna say the downside is that what's the downside? Because there's a downside, right?
Kelby, start the discussion.
Wait, no, I have to know the downside because he said it's a good and bad thing.
What's the downside?
Is that it affects the staying power of individual games, like League of Legends compared to Dota.
Oh God.
Makes it so.
Continue.
That like it's hard for a casual fan to stay committed for multiple years.
Yeah. We've talked about this a bunch.
Because they patch too frequently in League of Legends, you're saying.
Both games.
Okay, but he said League of Legends versus Dota.
Dota's on a 2-week patch system now, too.
Now it is. That's my point. Is that I thought he was praising Dota, which has a more, or used to have a more infrequent patch schedule, but now it's on the League of Legends schedule because Dota 2 copied everything League of Legends did.
Yeah. I think even with the less frequent patch schedule as a casual fan, especially compared to traditional sports, and we've talked about this, you're absolutely right that it is way harder to follow. We've talked about this on Hotline League before, where like I ran and watched scrims and had a very good understanding of the competitive meta of League of Legends when I was running CLG. And then when I transitioned out of the organization, stopped watching less, didn't play the game, especially when you don't play the game. Although I didn't play the game, but like I was watching so much, I essentially played the game. Like it's so hard to like have the same appreciation, I find, and like me watching League now is not as fun as when I played the game. You know what I mean? It's not the same viewer experience. Maybe it's because I played the game before and I had the understanding and appreciation of like understanding a game at a high level and then really understanding the nuance between what's happening on screen. But yeah, like football is the same fucking thing if I watch it now, and I haven't watched traditional sports religiously since high school. Basketball, baseball, it's all the same. It's super easy to pick up. And yeah, because traditional sports operate under a different business unit than video games do. Video games are not there to make money from their esports properties. They're there to make money from their player bases and sell units and microtransactions. So of course those spaces operate differently. Esports is the marketing component of these titles so that you can get viewers more engaged in spending money on the game. And hopefully one day the Blizzards and the leagues and stuff like that are hoping to make these esports ventures profitable in and of themselves. But up to this point, they've just been marketing vehicles. So yeah, since the revenue from the game is driven based on interaction, keeping things fresh, continuously producing new content, that keeps the player base engaged, keeps them spending money at the same time for the casual viewing experience, as you've denoted. It's much harder to follow and keep up compared to the traditional sports viewing experience. And that is probably, if we're taking the next step further, as we've extrapolated, the thing that keeps, in my mind, in my personal opinion, keeps esports from reaching the same level of cultural pervasion and relevancy that traditional sports has, because it is as hard to have as wide a pool, because following casually is just so difficult in esports.
I have something to say, but I think I might sneeze.
Go for it.
Okay, I'm gonna try without sneezing. I think the other thing too is that like sports don't really get outdated, whereas games get outdated. Like
yeah,
graphics look like shit. Like, and people, as much as they like to pretend they don't care about it, they do.
Yeah.
And
I think baseball is getting outdated.
Baseball's getting outdated because attention spans and the actual.
Well, that's an example, though, right? Is that I do think like in comparison to something like baseball, you can update the league, or you can update games frequently enough that the moment that your audience, like the trend towards battle royale right now is a pretty good example. Like all these people didn't have, like, battle royale became super trendy, and now you're everybody's getting into it. It's a way to save a game.
Right, but that's happening on such different time scales that I don't think it's quite fair to compare them. Like, the problem with baseball is, like, people literally just don't watch it anymore. It's not like baseball fans moved on. It's like they're not generating new baseball fans because it doesn't appeal to the current demographic. Whereas, like, what happens in video games is, like, League fans became Overwatch players, and then they became this other thing. Like, the fan bases actually shift around, as well as, like, sometimes they just grow up and move on, but you always get supplanted with new players. The problem is those players don't necessarily go to your game, and then that kind of thing. So, like, it's just happening on such a faster time scale where, like, graphics matter, gameplay matters, like you said. So, like, I think regardless, even if you made a game that didn't patch, like, Melee is unbelievably unique, but, like, I don't think that's at all like a replicatable esports ecosystem where it's like, yeah, we're just going to make one game and that's going to be it, and we're going to, like, do really, really minor balance changes for the next 15 years. And I just don't think that would work with how the video game, like Kelby was saying, marketplace works, because it's not like sports fundamentally. It's like, I don't think
Nintendo doesn't give a fuck about Melee.
Yeah, and even if they did, I'm not sure it would have helped the scene, honestly. They probably would have fucked it up. But, like, I don't think you could take League of Legends and say, we have a great core gameplay here. We're going to stop with all the balance changes. We're just going to let the meta settle. No one's going to bother to touch this game. And I'm sure that, like, that'll be better for the casual viewer, because while I think the frequent patches does hurt them, it also keeps the player base fresh, which is important. Whereas, like, if you just don't touch the game, people are just going to move on. and then the scene will die.
Hitstreak links an MLB attendance article and says MLB attendance has stayed relatively flat since 2006. I don't know if it'd be interesting to know if MLB viewership has stayed relatively flat. I do know that what hasn't stayed flat is the average age of an MLB viewer, which is getting older and older and older. And that's not great because your audience is aging.
And not to tangent too hard on this, but a lot of the Nielsen ratings and those things are hot garbage anyways.
Super hot garbage, man.
Super fucking hot garbage. And like when you factor in even if you do generate new young baseball fans, they're not watching on cable, which is how they're getting this. And they're probably not even paying for MLB Network online either. Like people just bootleg streams all over the place. Like when I hit 22 and I was still watching the NFL, I didn't have cable and I didn't pay for shit. I just found bootleg streams all the time that were fine quality. So like it's actually kind of hard to tell exactly.
Yeah, there's actually about 170,000 people watching the show right now. It's just people don't want to watch. They're bootleg streams of Hotline League all over the place. You go to Ustream.
We have paywalls to watch this.
Yeah, you go to Ustream. Hotline League is there. You know, you go to some crazy Chinese streaming service. Hotline League is there. You know, it's just it's hard.
The Doyu numbers are insane for Hotline League.
Yeah,
Chinese people, they love us.
Yeah. Let's move on.
But the point is, it's like it's hard to say what's even happening. For me, like I hear these things and I'm like, well, think about like what the new users would even look like for those. Like they're not buying cable packages to watch anymore.
Cable is the fucking worst thing.
Yeah, cable's dying.
Planet.
Forget sports dying. Sports was always delivered by cable, and now that's dying. So like, is it the medium or the content?
Esports was a mistake.
Irish Blizzard.
Irish Blizzard. Do you have anything else that you would change? We went down a crazy tangent, but do you have anything else that you want to bring up or any thoughts? Well, I think the internet. Irish Blizzard, thank you so much for.
Hello?
Hi.
Hey, you're back.
Did you fall asleep?
I put the input the opposite way, so it was actually really low instead of really high.
Okay.
Okay.
Cornell student, by the way. What? Do you have anything else that you want to add here at the end?
I also wanted to know in my argument about how it kind of competitive integrity of I guess specifically League of Legends, in that the changing patches also change how well players can perform in each meta. Like specifically this past spring I think TL got really lucky with the fact that the meta moved away from top lane completely, and Impact's weaknesses in lane weren't able to be exploited. So I think that kind of hurts the competitive integrity and longevity of esports sometimes.
Yeah. I don't know if it's a competitive integrity issue, but I do think it is frustrating when you see a team that has done so well struggle because a off-meta patch comes out for them at the end of the split. And I know the argument is like, well, you know, they should just be prepared for that for any possible scenario. But if I told you that like every 5 minutes like the floor was going to become lava and the players had to jump onto their desk and they couldn't keep up doing that and they lost, like that is going that, you know, there's a lot of you can't just constantly change the variables so much, and there are only degrees to which you can change them and expect people to be able to adapt.
Yeah, and I also think like it's not so much a competitive integrity problem so much as it just like once again makes it hard for viewers to track like what's going on in a player's career. Whereas like in sports, if a player has a bad season, it's like, oh, they were slumping or something. But sometimes, like you said, like a meta just changes, and if you're not keeping up on what the changes were, you don't know why this team started sucking, because you know they're like the game actually changed. Whereas like in basketball, if people go through a slump, maybe a player got injured or something, I think it's a lot easier to identify what's going on within team dynamics when the game stays the same. But when the game is changing and the team is going through all these phases and stuff, like I think it becomes very hard for the casual fan to understand exactly what is like the cause and effect happening.
Yeah. Thoughts, Kelby?
Yeah. No, I mean, I agree.
All right. It's good to hear. I wish you said you agree more often when we're talking.
I hate when Kelby agrees.
Irish Blizzard, thank you so much for calling on the show. I hope Cornell upgrades their internet. I do really like Ithaca. It's a great place. And appreciate you calling in. Thanks so much, and thanks for being a Twitch sub.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, man.
All right. Well, I think that is the show.
Travis,
again,
where'd you go to college?
Me?
Yeah.
Well, I don't like to flaunt. If anybody's watching right now on the Twitch stream,
Kelsey, where did you go to college?
I went to Pacific Lutheran University.
That's cool.
God bless.
Hang out on stream because I'm not gonna just keep watching everybody. But let's go down and say the goodbyes. Mark, do you have any shoutouts?
Yeah, don't keep watching. Go to Zell's channel. I think
Kelby,
I'm gonna play.
Do you have any
I think
shoutouts?
I'm gonna
Any
play
plugs?
Neverwinter, the MM.
Anything you want to say?
I think we're gonna play that for some reason because we're bored out of our minds.
Kelby.
I just wanted to say that the Chainsmokers have a subreddit now. You guys can all go and subscribe to the Chainsmokers subreddit. I think it's
How long till you get banned on that?
It's
I was gonna say, are you down there yet?
underscore. So here's a funny story.
The
is
underscore
that-
Chainsmokers?
Yeah. This subreddit was actually private for a really, really long period of time. Like it was not an open community, but I knew that it existed, and I used to always message the mods of the subreddit to try and get access to it or whatever. I don't know what they were using it for or why it was private or even if it had anything on it, but I used to always message the mods to try and get access to it. I did that for probably a year and a half or 2 years, where I would message the mods every 4 months to try and get access to it. And then I just found that it was open, publicly available one day. There's nobody on there, but they post on there all the time apparently. So that's cool. Maybe they'll start making EDM again.
You mean the artist will post on there?
Yeah.
Dude, you gotta tell them.
Yeah, I want them to do an AMA. I want them to do an AMA, and then I need Kelby to be the top. We need to vote brigade the shit out of Kelby's. We need to get the AMA to take place while we're doing the show, or we will strategically move Hotline League to the same time as the AMA, and then we will use our massive Twitch audience to vote brigade the shit out of Kelby's top comments, and it'll just be you guys blocked me because of this and this. Can I get unblocked? Yeah. And also, do you feel like it's justified the way that you blocked me?
Yeah. Your fucking social media intern blocked the biggest fan of your group.
Or just
longest promoter.
Or we'll just
I'm entitled to hate you.
The whole
because at one point I loved you.
Hotline League.
I didn't hate them.
Everyone could just spam the AMA with "Hey, Kelby's your biggest fan. Look at all these instances of him shouting you out on the most prolific esports show out there, Hotline League."
You want to hear a really funny story?
No.
Is that when they blocked me, I'm going to continue anyways, Mark. When they blocked me, I went back through my Twitter history. I think I maybe told you about this, Travis. I went back through my Twitter history and I recorded every single tweet I'd ever made about the Chainsmokers that was positive and tallied up all the impressions and engagement I'd gotten for it, and then tallied up the one negative tweet that I made, which was not even very negative, and the impressions against it, and was going to post this big thing about how I think it's really fucking funny that I promoted you guys for this long and given you guys this much exposure, and then I get blocked for one fucking tweet, but I never did it.
You know what, Kelby? This is what I would say if I was them. I'd be like, you gave us those impressions, we gave you those impressions, bitch. You'd be a fucking nobody if you didn't tweet about us. That's the reason
true.
People cared about you.
I was tweeting about the Chainsmokers before they were anything. When they were small potatoes.
Yeah, and how many impressions did those get? Huh? They built you, Kelby. You stand on the shoulders of the Chainsmokers.
By the way,
from 2013 to
2016. No, you're good.
Yeah, 2016.
Not only did you offend the Chainsmokers in 2016, you offended Hitstreak in 2018.
2017.
Says, "Whoa, assuming social media people are interns, I feel targeted."
For the Chainsmokers record label, the dudes who are handling their account, yeah, they're probably not they're probably kids.
Additionally, we've got an N for you, Kelby. Denny Nukes, who is a sub. I don't know much else about him, but he's in the chat. He also has Twitch from. He says, I know a girl who slept with one of the chain smokers. So we get Denny, just hit up Denny Nukes. He'll get you the girl. Girl will get you the chain smokers. And we can resolve everything via that method, I think.
Do you really think that girl is like still in contact?
Absolutely not. She got ghosted the next day. If I know my boys, and I do know my boys.
They blocked her on
Just
Twitter.
kidding.
Any man,
That's not acceptable
any man at all with an
behavior.
ounce of fame.
I'm not encouraging that sort of interaction. If you're in that sort of relationship and you're open to it, that's totally fine, you know? But I'm not saying that you should disrespect anybody or
Hey,
all of the things.
Everyone came out ahead. She got a story.
Okay, Denny Nuke says she has a Snapchat.
Of him?
Like his personal Snapchat.
Okay.
Never mind.
That's how Yuli met me. Joker Can't Spell says, I know their creative director. Kelby's met him.
Yeah. If he's talking about Zola.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go. All right.
Cool dude.
For me, I'm going to stick around. There's a video up on my channel talking about MSI. I'm flying in 36 hours roughly, I think, to Berlin, where I will be working with Broden to create MSI content. I do not think that the next episode of the show will be happening on a Monday because there'll be games and all this stuff happening, and I'll be covering it, and I'll be sleeping. I don't know, but I will try to do a Hotline League next week with Mark. Can't make any promises about what that looks like, but hopefully it works out great. And you guys can check that out. YouTube is there. If you guys want to help, I'm trying to raise funds for MSI. It's over at travisgafford.com/support and patreon.com/travisgafford. I don't have a sponsor. It's going to be expensive. So any support there is appreciated. But if you are a college student, please do not worry about
that. And until that content gets out there, you can go and watch my ASMR. You can watch my ASMR video to, just really pass the time. It's great. I put a lot of effort into it. Hope you guys enjoy it.
Yep. Brittany?
Did you watch my ASMR video, Kelby?
What are you laughing at this time?
Kelby doesn't care about me.
No, I did watch. Oh, she's still watching the same YouTube channel. I watched the ASMR video for like 30 seconds, skipping through it, and realized that you were just trolling. Not that I care about ASMR.
It took you 30 seconds to figure out he was trolling?
Did you see my leg farts?
I was just wondering if he didn't troll at some point. No, I didn't see your leg farts.
They were impressive, actually.
This has been Hotline League, episode 26.